I concede there were high expectations before that, not only from civil society but Malaysians at large were aware, wanted the budget to be an opportunity for us to reject not only the budget but the government, or unseat the incumbent Prime Minister Tan Sri Muhyiddin. And earlier, I think a week earlier, I issued a statement that if these major concessions are not made, we will then opt to reject the budget in total. Now what happened was, during the summing up speech, Tengku Zafrul made major concessions, which to my mind and my limited experience as the former finance minister, I would say that it was not too proper, because when a substantial amount of funds have been disbursed not according to what was tabled earlier, you need to have certain procedures in place. This was not done. Notwithstanding, he made certain, as I said, major concessions. EPF withdrawals, moratorium, bank moratorium, concessions to the poor, paddy planters, fishermen, and more significant is the concessions, additional grants to the frontline workers, health officials, paramedics, including the police, RELA, etc., etc. And with all this, we had this predicament. It was a spontaneous decision which I have to make, knowing it may be unpopular, would be probably difficult for many of our colleagues to accept. But there's no time to consult. He finished just before 3. In a matter of minutes, we had to make a decision. So I had to just whisper to Mat Sabu, who had strong reservations because he was actually representing the general aspirations of Malaysians who want to change, who want to affect change immediately, and then with Guan Eng, and Guan Eng had a similar view to say, look, I think we still need to have a division, and then they then conveyed to Shafi'i. But I said, how do you then explain to the masses? This is what they wanted, budget per se, and this was what Tengku Zafrul provided for or conceded. After after that event, what do? Do we still reject? What are the grounds of rejection? So I made a decision with firm, and I know it has caused lots of consternation, concern among many of my colleagues, but that was a decision that has to be made. But even then, there is also another major confusion. They say we support the budget. I mean, look at the video on the few minutes when the speaker asked, do you support? If yes, say setuju. If no, say tidak. So there was a very clear tidak at the same time.
Ahli-ahli yang berhormat, sekarang saya kemukakan masalah kepada majlis bagi diputuskan. Masalahnya ialah bahawa rang undang-undang ini dibacakan kali yang kedua sekarang. Ahli-ahli yang berhormat yang bersetuju, sila kata bersetuju.
Setuju!
Ahli-ahli yang berhormat yang tidak bersetuju, sila kata tidak.
Tidak!
And of course the ruling is, without a division, then he would always say, as a procedure, lebih suara bersetuju. I mean, the majority agree. So the perception that this was approved as a consensus is totally wrong. So I can appreciate the fact that some of our Amanah colleagues stood up, in fact one keadilan member, and the rest of course berjuang, because there was no discussions after listening to the concessions made by Tengku Zafrul. Having said that we verbally rejected, you see, but then did not call for division to allow for the debate at committee stage to continue. And of course the question is, if you reject this, what makes you think that you can reject the second? There is a difference. There's a specific provision. For example, come Ministry of Health, there's no substantial increase in the allocation, we have reason to object and reject. Come JASA, 86 million, there's a small reduction. So on the specific matter, we start rejecting at committee stage. That's what is meant by committee stage. Now, if this is finally becomes to very substantive issues in many ministries, then on the 15th of December will be the major decision whether we accept or reject the budget. After a detailed scrutiny of specific provisions, specific allocation, either excesses or like development expenditure where cronyism would continue, or project procurement without tenders, these issues will be raised at the committee stage, which means we will still continue to vote at every single point. Not necessarily all. For example, if there's a decision by the government to support frontliners, we will support. There's no reason why we should object just because we are in the opposition. And this also needs to be understood. The role of the opposition is not to oppose everything. If the issue is, for example, to give 300 ringgit extra to police personnel, we support. That's what we call for. In fact, this shows a clear weakness and fragility of this government. They are not prepared to face the parliament based on their earlier budget. They need to make major concessions, otherwise they will not have this standing. So to my mind, we have won in that sense, because many of our appeals, including some of the other MPs from the government side who made these demands, have been met. Not totally, partial. My major objections remain. What? The projection is indefensible of growth at 6.5 to 7.5%. Doesn't make sense at all. The revenue for next year, slightly more than 2019, which is again totally absurd and untenable. It doesn't make sense in the economy. So these issues will be raised, but this will be done at the committee stage.